בשם השם נעשה ונצליח, שיעור תורה, ברוכים הבאים, שבוע טוב, שבוע מבורך. We're back continuing our series of the Iggeret HaGra, the letter from the Gaon of Vilna, that is teaching us week after week how to improve our life, how to improve our marriages, how to improve our parenthood, how to improve our overall attitude about life. And Baruch Hashem, I know that I'm getting affected by it, so if I'm getting affected by it, I'm sure that you guys are too, Baruch Hashem. Tonight's shiur will be for a refuah shlema for Rabbanit Levana bat Sarah, Rav Ephraim ben Shulamit, Rabbanit Sarah bat Anat, David ben Nesriya, Doris bat Jora, Orit bat Ilana, and Baruch Hashem, since Yitro ben Avraham and Talia bat Sarah are feeling good, I don't believe we need to do any more refuah shlema. Baruch Hashem got b'sorot tovot. But in case a little extra is needed, refuah shlema for them also, and also for Atzlacha Rabba, for Marsha bat Julie, Ayla bat Marsha, Samuel ben Marsha, Cephas ben Marsha, Alexander ben Marsha, Louis ben Marsha, Shaul ben Farzane, Reuven Chaim ben Pala Parel, Oshri ben Doris, Gabi ben Doris, Elad ben Doris, David ben Asriya, Netanel Yosef ben Avraham, and Amir ben Shahin. הקדוש ברוך הוא יברך אותם בכל מכל כל, חיים ארוכים, שלמים, מלאים תורה, מצוות, גמילות חסדים, נחת, to them and to all of the other wonderful people that continue to support and contribute in every way possible to help us do all the wonderful things that the organization is doing. So just a couple of brief updates. Baruch Hashem, b'siyata dishmaya, we have officially launched the new book, my new book, Baruch Hashem, Yaseh Midbar Le'aga Mayim. It's a pasuk in Tehillim, which is really for acronym for my name, for anyone who wonders how we got this verse. It says, turns a desert into a wellspring, Baruch Hashem, and Be'ezrat Hashem. So this book, Baruch Hashem, took a few years to put together. Just getting the askamot from all the great rabbis, whether it's the Rishon LeZion, Rav Yitzchak Yosef Sheikhye, or Rav Gidon ben Moshe, Rav Yaakov Zamir, Rav Naim, all of the Rav Mizrahi, the Dayan, Rav Mizrahi, the Mezakeh Rabim, Rav Bar Kochba, all of the other wonderful people that went through the book, read it, analyzed it, and some analyzed it with a fine-tooth comb. I mean, if you look at the Askama from Rav Chaim Kachlon Sheikhye, he gives you pretty much a synopsis of the whole book, of each and every single section. And the Rishon LeZion had a whole, couple of people on his staff review every single line in the book, Baruch Hashem. So it's if all of these wonderful, extraordinary Chachamim not only liked it, but liked it enough to put their name on it, then Baruch Hashem, we know we have a good product in our hand, and Be'ezrat Hashem, the public will feel the same. So as Darkenu B'Kodesh, our ways of Kedusha, we are distributing this for free. We're not selling it at this stage. But that's also why we're looking for people to distribute it. We have 4,000 copies are going to be distributed for free in Eretz Yisrael. They're already printed and they're already being sent to a few people. And there's 1,000 that are going to be coming to the United States, Be'ezrat Hashem, next month. So anyone in Eretz Yisrael currently, because it's not really relevant in America right now, anyone in Eretz Yisrael that is interested in distributing the book, they have at least 20 people that they can give it to them in their hands. Not just go to the shul and put this pile of books there and think you did kiruv. Actually give people in their hands. You have 20 people or more that you can give it to. We'll send you some books. We'll start you off, with a certain number, and then, after we see that you're sending us pictures that you're actually giving these things out, and it's getting to the right place, then Be'ezrat Hashem will send you more if there's more left. But they're going pretty fast. Baruch Hashem, we've already gotten, I think maybe 30% of them have already spoken for, and we just started today, Baruch Hashem. So we're giving them out for free simply because although they cost a fortune, it's a very expensive book. Just if you look at the cover, if you look at the work that was done, we also did nikud on it, which is not very common, but to make this book very readable, both for the Torah scholar as well as for a beginner, but also not just interesting, but also readable. And very fluid. So we don't want money to get in the way of bringing chizuk to anybody that is looking for it. So we figured that this is a great start to give these out for free. And HaKadosh Baruch Hu, Baruch Hashem, has all the money in the world. He'll send the money to pay for it. We have some time before we have to pay the bill. For anyone that wants to contribute, they're more than welcome to. You could just figure out the price for books in your stores. It's not much different. As far as the distribution, like I said, we're shipping them out to people, and it's Baruch Hashem. Some people already signed up, and we have about, I'd say, 30% already are being sent out as we speak. Second big thing is that we have our major event. Extraordinary event that we spoke about last week, which is a Siyum Shas event in Eretz Yisrael. 4 of our students are completing the Shas. 2 of them are completing the Shas Mishnayot, and 2 of them are completing the Shas Talmud Bavli in a single year. They all 4 students completed this major undertaking in a single year. That was the whole plan. That was the whole special idea. The 2 that finished the Shas Mishnayot are 13 and 14 years old, Baruch Hashem, and both were kids that grew up in a home that wanted Torah, but unfortunately there was a lot of problems, a lot of issues, poverty, bad yeshivot, all types of major issues. Where part of the family became completely secular. It was a very, very difficult upbringing, but Baruch Hashem, in the last year, they became Mamash Talmidei Chachamim, completing the Shas of Mishnayot. The other 2 that completed the Shas Bavli, that means that they had to learn 7 pages of the Talmud Bavli per day. And everybody that learns Gemara knows that 7 pages of the Gemara is not like 7 pages of any book. First of all, it's double pages, because back and front is considered a daf. And second of all, there's more difficulty in a single page of Gemara than any book in the world. So it's very, very difficult, very intense. And to do it for each and every single day is a very big undertaking. Hence the reason why most people don't complete the Shas. Even if they learn Torah their whole life, they don't complete the Shas even once in their life. But these 2 tzaddikim completed the Shas in a single year, and so aside from that being a huge undertaking that they've achieved, a huge achievement, what makes it even more special, and what makes it something that we're actually having a major event for it, where this event is going to be, for any of you that know and have seen some of our videos of the other events we had in Eretz Yisrael, the Siyum Shas of Rabbi Ephraim, that he's had several of them, and other events that we've had. You see, these events are like weddings. You have food, you have music, you have a lot of major rabbanim speaking, some big rabbanim, some gdolim. Baruch Hashem, come to our events. And the reason why we're doing it for these few kids is because the 2 that finished the Talmud Bavli, one of them was, both of them in essence, really were completely secular a year ago. And when I mean secular, like keeping 0, nothing, eating pig on Yom Kippur, like 0, 0, 0, nothing. They grew up in a house that had some Torah in it and religion in it, but unfortunately had major difficulties in yeshiva. One of them got thrown out of yeshiva at the age of 14. I told you about last week, after being embarrassed in front of an entire class for an hour straight. Obviously left the derech, and Baruch Hashem not only is back on the derech, but and better than ever, but has something to show for it, where Baruch Hashem, he's now a Talmid Chacham has Siyum Hashas under his belt, and all they want now is Torah, Baruch Hashem. So this is a major event. I've invited a bunch of you that I know live in Israel, so Baruch Hashem, some of you are going. Anyone that lives in Israel and wants to attend, send me a message ASAP, and I could see if I can add you to the reservations, because we have to get meals for each person and so on. So there's an expense involved and a certain amount of limitation as far as room. How much room? I think we're almost at that capacity. So Baruch Hashem, it's going to be a beautiful event, and whoever goes. That's number 2. Number 3 is that we have, Baruch Hashem, our new cards in the container have arrived. They're in the warehouse. We're shipping them out. I actually even have some in my office over here. We're shipping them out. We're giving them out to different places, and still need to do the whole renewed store. But for anybody that wants to order some of these, they're already on the website, bezrathashem.org. You could order some of them. It's makes your life much easier as far as doing cube. You don't really need to think anymore. All you need to do is just take your hand, take one of these, put them on a counter somewhere, and you're finished. So this is the beauty of it. This is really more for display, to put at places, whether it's a synagogue or yeshiva or a Judaica store or a kosher store. It's more for that. It's not really for the individual distribution one at a time. You can use it for that, obviously, but I think it's better suited for that because it has the container. So that's that. A few other things we're working on, but let's get on with the shiur, and B'ezrat Hashem naaseh v'natzliach. Now, the Gaon Vilna has been taking us on a major journey over these last several months. Really rewiring our brain as far as our understanding of reward and punishment, as far as the details of certain things, as far as the understanding of our responsibility when it comes to being parents, what we really need to do, how we need to do it. All of the amazing things that the Gaon Vilna has been writing have really been hitting home for a lot of people, myself first. And last week, we finished off with the Gaon Vilna saying, V'kol atchalot kashot. All beginnings are hard. All beginnings are hard. Now, really, when a person really takes this into account, that, really thinks about this statement, that all beginnings are hard, obviously it's true. But when you really think about it, this is in essence one of the major necessary items that you have to have on your checklist, really, when it comes to success. An understanding, a clarity, and an acceptance that the beginning will be difficult. How long is the beginning? Obviously, for different people, it's different amounts. Different journeys is different amounts. Different amount of dedication, different amounts. But nonetheless, the beginning is going to be difficult. And the problem with most people is that they're simply not willing to go through the pain. They're not willing to go through the pain of change. A person could literally stay in a bad marriage. He hates her, she hates him. They hate each other. They haven't slept in the same bed in years. They can't even sit down and have coffee together like colleagues. Needless to say, like a couple, and they're staying like this 5, 10, 20 years. Why? She's afraid, what am I going to do now? Go start brand new, where am I going to live? What's going to happen? This, that, and the same thing with him. Now, of course, ideally, you would like people to work on their marriage, to fix it, to fix the problem, and thereby, not have this miserable situation. But sometimes, people try to fix, and you can't fix it. It's broken. It's as broken as can be. And it's unfixable. And really in a situation like that, it's a mitzvah to get a divorce. And I really don't understand some of these guys that are out there that refuse to give their wives a get. I never really quite understood how big an ego can be until I saw some of these guys that are, really mistreating women in the highest extent, where they just simply refuse to give them a get. As I've told you guys in previous lectures, some women, you're not allowed to give them a get because they simply don't deserve to get one. They've done certain things, they are doing certain things. I'm not talking about those people. I'm talking about there's certain people where the guy's already moved on. He already has a new woman. He already has a new life. He simply doesn't really care for that old woman anymore. The old original wife that he has, simply doesn't care. But he refuses to let her go on. He refuses to let her move on with life. I never really quite understood that. And because if you were afraid of the change, then you wouldn't have gotten a divorce. And if she left you, then okay, fine, I understand. You're not happy that she left you and you're miserable about it and so on. But time has passed. You realize that she's not coming back anytime soon. You've already started to move on, or you've already moved on. What's the point of keeping her back? Why are you putting her in such a horrible situation where you're putting her in a situation where she's much more likely to break and start sinning by going with another guy, even though she's forbidden to? And I never really quite understood that. But unfortunately, Rabotai Karim, there are some people that have their ego simply be their own worst enemy. Their ego is the one thing that destroys their life, destroys their marriage, destroys their career, destroys everything. And it's this ego is what leads to some of the worst things that you have in a person. For example, if you have people that are angry. Anger stems from ego, because anger is an expression that you have when you feel and you have a certainty in your mind that the world is supposed to operate according to your tune, operate according to your instructions. And the minute that it doesn't, you get angry and you start erupting. And unfortunately, there is no one that's a bigger loser than the person that gets angry. And I don't just mean that, figuratively. I mean that literally. Rav Ovadia Alav Shalom gave an extraordinary example years ago, and he says, if you ever think of an angry person, don't get so mad at this angry person. Why? He's hurting himself more than anybody else. She's hurting herself more than anybody else. Yeah, but I don't like that she's yelling at me. I don't like that he's yelling at me. Yeah, of course you don't like it. But trust me when I tell you, they're hurting themselves most. How is that? He says, imagine a kumkum, a little pot. You put water in it. You start heating that water. You heat. After a little while, the water starts boiling. And if you don't take it off the fire, what happens? The water starts to spill over. Spill out of the pot. And initially, where does it go? Initially, it affects and harms the pot. First thing that it goes, it hits the pot. After it goes on the pot, then it goes to the place, the burner. After that, it continues going further to the table, to the counter, and so on and so forth. It says that's an angry person. An angry person that's expressing their anger. They're hurting a lot of people. They're hurting the one there, they're hurting the one there, they're hurting the wife, they're hurting the husband, the kids, the colleagues. But before they hurt everybody else, who they hurt first? The kumkum. They hurt themselves. They hurt themselves because they can't think straight. They lose their siyata dishmaya. They lose their blessing. They lose their sense of truth versus lies. They simply cannot function. And unfortunately, sometimes, Rabotai, we look at anger as a unique problem. But in reality, anger is one of the most common things out there. So much so that your average person thinks that it's just something that you're born with and it simply doesn't go away. You could maybe keep it in your stomach and don't express it, but you can't get rid of it. And there's nothing further from the truth. Anger is something you can work on through learning musar, through learning about how to develop your character to eventually get rid of it. But you have to know first and foremost that there's something wrong with it and that you're hurting yourself more than everybody else. You're thinking, oh yeah, I don't want to get angry anymore because it's hurting my relationship with my kids, it's hurting my relationship with my husband, it's hurting my relationship with my my wife, it's hurting my relationship with my job. Yeah, fine. But it's also hurting your relationship with you. You with yourself. You with your avodat Hashem. You with simply just killing yourself, with giving yourself both a physical and a spiritual poison through this anger. And if you don't realize that, you're not going to fix it. Now, of course, fixing it is difficult. The beginning of everything is difficult. Fixing one of your character traits, Rabotai Karim, is very difficult. How difficult? Rabbi Israel Misalant, alav Shalom, was a genius in Torah, a genius in Musar, and was a person that you simply just saw an angel among men. He said it is much easier for him to complete the entire Talmud Bavli than to fix a single character trait. Much easier. Now, if you learn Daf Yomi, like Baruch Hashem, hundreds of thousands of people are learning Daf Yomi now. If you learn Daf Yomi, you're going to finish the Shas, B'ezrat Hashem, after you do it for 7 years straight. A little over 7 years, every day, without stopping. You'll complete the Shas in 7 years. It's a big undertaking. It's a big achievement. Baruch Hashem. One of the Gedolei Ador, Rabbi Yisrael Misalan, says, it's easier to do that, whole path of 7 years, than to correct a single character trait. Now, does that mean you shouldn't correct it? No, obviously you have to. But the point being is, the beginning is difficult, and you have to realize that this difficulty is a necessity. That you have to overcome. Now, the Chachamim have said many, many different things throughout the years, but when it comes to the path that a person takes and how the person manages their life, there's literally no end to the dvarim from the Chachamim of what they teach us. And the Gaon Mivilna is no exception, where he continues here and he says, after he told us that the beginning is very difficult, you have to understand that difficulty is simply you getting in your own way. Why are you getting in your own way? Because simply you have gotten yourself used to bad character traits. And Chaim Shmuelevitz says in Sichot Musar, I believe I said this last week, that one of the greatest enemies, one of the greatest Amaleks that a person can have in their own life is their own bad character traits. Because that bad character trait that you have made a habit in your life is one of those things that is so terrible that even if you are inspired to change, that bad habit, that anger that you get angry so quickly, or whatever it is that you have, that's a bad habit that you have and you've gotten accustomed to the point where you don't even think there's anything to do about it, that is the spiritual fire killer. That's the one that could stop you from actually completing your tshuva, from progressing with your tshuva, from getting to a higher level in your avodat Hashem. Now, on the other hand, one of the greatest things that a person can do for themselves is develop good habits, because good habits pay dividends. Good habits pay dividends. Now, when it comes to chinuch, and you want to train your kids to be one day, to be good servants of Hashem, you want to train your kids to be tzaddikim, tzaddikot, as Rav Steinemann, alav shalom, used to say that the teachers in the seminary, the rabbaniot, the rebbitzins, they shouldn't focus so much on making their the daughters of Israel into smart tzaddikot, but rather make them into modest tzadikot. Modest. Tznuah. Why? If she's tznuah, she's fulfilling her mission. If she's tznuah, she's fulfilling her mission. But if she is a genius, she knows all the midrashim, she knows all the halachot, she knows everything, she can still be a reshait. So a person that wants to train their daughter to be modest, what do? Start as soon as possible. What's as soon as possible? Birth. That's as soon as possible. And if you missed out the birth and the first few years of life because you didn't realize you were supposed to do it, now is the time. I don't really understand why some parents, even in the frum communities, feel like there's simply no reason for a child to be modest in any way, shape, or form. I'm not talking about where it's a big deal. If you see a little baby and they have the little fat thighs, it's delicious, you want to bite it, it's really, really cute. There's not a real problem with it halachically, but there's really no reason for your kid to always be with a diaper and never have clothes on, or to just walk around and play with no shirt on. There's simply no reason for that. You should have kids with clothes on, especially as they get a little older, especially once they start walking and they go places. There's no reason for your little kid to have a short skirt. There's no reason for your kid to have a short sleeve shirt. Why? Simply there's no benefit in doing it. You can't tell me, oh, it's hot. The kid doesn't feel that, first and foremost. Second of all, they're not asking for a short sleeve shirt. Third of all, they're not any less hot because there's a short sleeve shirt or a short skirt. I don't know who fooled society into thinking that short sleeves are going to make you any less hot. It just doesn't. In fact, it's quite the opposite. You look at the people that live in the desert, they don't walk around with underwear. They actually walk around with several layers. But that's a different story. The reality is that if a mother or father wants to teach their kids and make sure that their kids, when it comes time where it's actually halachically forbidden for a girl to walk around immodest, or for a boy to do certain things, they have to start as soon as possible. If you want your daughter to be modest, then buy her only modest clothes right now. All the not modest clothes, all those short sleeve shirts, all those short little skirts that you think are cute, not really sure why you think they're cute, but nonetheless people think they're cute. Now, somebody that's a pedophile also thinks they're cute, but in a different way. But for whatever reason or another, people think that their 4, 5, 6-year-old daughter walking around practically half naked is cute, so therefore it's not a big deal. It may not be a big deal to you because you are healthy to a certain extent, but that pedophile, that psychopath that perhaps lives down the street also thinks it, but in a very, very unhealthy way. Secondly, HaKadosh Baruch Hu says, listen, you want to fulfill Torah and mitzvot. You already chose to be religious. You already keep Shabbat. You're already keeping kosher. You're already keeping everything else. You already decided that you want your daughters to be modest later on. Why are you delaying it? Why are you delaying it? Why not just buy the longer skirt? Why not just buy, even if you have to, if she's 2, 3 years old, buy her pants? Why do you have to buy these short sleeve things? What's the value of it? And in reality, there isn't a value to it. Just the Satan tells people there's a value to it. So if you want your daughter to be modest, already start when they're very, very young. The younger, the better. And even if you started late, no big deal. You could start as soon as possible. Oh, how come I have new clothes? Don't worry, I'm buying you a whole new wardrobe, hon. She'll be so excited about the whole new wardrobe, she'll forget the fact that she has to wear completely different clothes. And the reality is that if you tell your kids that this is the way a Jew looks, this is the way things are supposed to be, your kid is going to like it. They're not going to fight you as much as you think they are. In fact, most people are really their own biggest enemies. They say they put things in their kid's mouth, but even though they're the ones that have a problem with it. Oh, no, it's not a big deal. She's only 4 years old. It's not really an obligation yet. No, it's not an obligation yet, but why put yourself in harm's way? Why put yourself in harm's way and already, train your kid and raise your kid in such a way where they're already getting used to short sleeves and short skirts and pretty much not having clothes on? Why? Why do you think that's going to make the adjustment any easier? The beginning is hardest, but it's really the beginning because you chose it to be. You're choosing to delay the beginning by 4 or 5 or 6 or 7 or 8 years. And some people, no, once she's already at shidduch age, meaning while she's a teenager, she can walk around like Hashem Yishmor V'Yatzil. She can walk around like Chava. She can walk around. But once she's already shidduch age, then I'll expect her to change her clothes. In your dreams, the girl's not going to change her clothes once she's already a teenager. You have to do it early. And that's one of the greatest gifts you can give them. Because if you get them used to this good habit, it'll pay dividends. When she will see other girls walking around with no clothes, she's not going to be jealous of them. But rather she's going to say, how come they don't have clothes on? She'll look at them as weird. rather than herself is weird, because she follows what she looks like as well as what her mother looks like and her sisters look like. And if you or her friends look like, and if she is surrounded by people that are like-minded and are dressing in a similar way, she'll view all of the prutzot in the world, all of the immodest girls in the world as the weird ones, rather than the people that do it in their own opposite manner, which is pretty much they want to teach them that it's good to be modest after already she's been teaching her that it's not good to be modest for 15, 20 years. And as you tell, why do I have to put all this clothes on? You already told me for the first 12, 15 years of my life, I don't have to put this clothes on. So why the change? And then you have to educate them and re-educate them and fight with them and argue with them, and you have your problem in your hands. Same concept with the boys. One of the greatest gifts I ever got from somebody was when one of our employees helped us for some time, and a very dear friend and student of ours helped us at one time. And Baruch Hashem, when somebody's a student of ours, Baruch Hashem, they understand what's important, what's not important. And one day, when my son was a little baby, and little babies are they operate, they look at things, they check things, and one of the things that they check is themselves. They get to know themselves. They touch their hands. Ooh, wow, this is a finger. Okay, great. Oh, wow, ooh, I have a head. Oh, great. They get excited about different things. And one of the things they get excited about is their member. They have no idea what this thing is. And if they ever see the opposite gender, they're like, what happened to you? Where's your, everybody thinks it's cute, but in reality, it's a part of life. Now, of course, you should try to not have that opposite gender thing happen in their life anytime soon. But nonetheless, it does happen. It does happen. Now, the most important thing that you can give a kid is his gift. Which gift? What my dear friend, my dear employee, my dear student invented b'siyata d'ishmaya when she was changing a diaper for one of my kids is Brit Kodesh, don't touch. When my boy heard this, Brit Kodesh, don't touch, that's it. That's all he needed to hear ever. That's all he needed to hear ever. Brit Kodesh, don't touch. Why? She heard it in my lectures 1.5 million times. The rest of society that listens to our lectures have heard of it sometimes. But what about the kids? They haven't gotten to the point of listening to all my lectures yet. Baruch Hashem, now they heard it. What they heard? The main thing. Brit Kodesh, don't touch. And this, Rabotai, when I told this to another student of mine recently, he must started crying. He says, listen, I have a problem with my kid. He's 4 or 5 years old, and all day he's investigating different things, and he's laughing, and I tell him don't do it, and he's just laughing, and I don't really want him to go into the same hell that I went through until I found your shurim and had to do tshuva. That took me 1.5 years to finally do the tshuva and stop and this and that. I don't want him to go through that whole nightmare process that I did, which I didn't do until I was 40. I want my kid to never have that problem. What do? I told him, listen, Brit Kodesh, don't touch. He says it works like a miracle. A miracle. That's how it works. Now, Rabotai Karim, if somebody told the Dora Mabul, Brit Kodesh don't touch, and they would have listened, guess what? All of them would have still been alive today. But as it says in Parashat Noach last week, Ki yishchit kol basar et darko al haaretz, that the Hashem saw that the earth has corrupted, for all flesh had corrupted its way upon the earth. The Gemara in Masechet Shabbat, page 41a, says that we use this verse as a source to know that the main sin of the generation of Noach was wasting seed. How do we see it? Ki yishchit kol basar et darko al haaretz. Every basar, every flesh, all flesh, let its way on the ground. Let its way on the ground. And that's what Onkelos teaches us from this particular verse, that the corrupted way, the corruption of the generation of Noach was in essence wasting seed. Now, one of the things that a person can gift their children, the earlier the better, but even if they're older, is teach them. Brit Kodesh, don't touch. Why? It's Kodesh. We don't touch Kodesh. Just like not everybody's allowed to go into the Kodesh Kodeshim in the Bet HaMikdash, just like no one was allowed to touch Mount Sinai, just like you're not allowed to touch a woman that's not your wife, and so on and so forth, not allowed to touch. And the kid forms a good habit, a healthy habit, of not only not touching the brit, but not even looking at it. And you could literally have a Rabbi Yehuda Nasi growing up in your house, who never looked at his brit. That's what you could have. And that's a gift, Rabotai. That's a fantastic habit that will pay you endless dividends. Endless dividends. Same idea with the girls. If you teach your little girl to be modest from the beginning, before she even knows what modesty is, but you literally dress her only modest, that is a good habit that will always pay dividends. But if you do the opposite, you do what society does, you're not only missing out on these good habit development, but you're actually developing the opposite. And we already heard how bad these opposite traits are. Now, on the other hand, one of the other things that makes a beginning very, very difficult is that people, generally speaking, don't like change. People don't like change. People don't like to move. People don't like to get new jobs. People don't like new things that if they already have them. If they don't have them, they like to get them. But if they already have something and it works and it functions, generally speaking, people don't like change. In fact, the Gemara talks about how when somebody moves houses, it's very traumatizing for the husband, much more than it is for the wife. And all types of things like this. Everything is discussed in the Torah and in the Gemara. And the key is to understand that change is sometimes necessary. Sometimes it's necessary, but not just because you're starting something new, but rather because sometimes you have to keep something new. In order to keep something new, you sometimes have to work extra hard. Work extra hard to keep yourself with the mentality of a rookie. What do I mean? One of the things that I noticed when I was on Wall Street, when I first came in, I noticed that there was a bunch of old guys. And in this office that had a bunch of old guys, this was the second company I worked at, everybody was like, content with their business, however many clients they had, and whatever business they were doing, and so on and so forth. So when I came into this office, they were all shocked that I'm this like fire and in there and I'm working from morning to night. I get into the office at 6 o'clock, 6:30 in the morning. I'm not leaving until midnight and I'm making calls and I'm not finished. And they thought, okay, he's just trying to make it. But then once I started already making more money than everybody else put together, they didn't understand. How does he keep going? Like, why do you keep working? You already have enough. I'm like, no. I keep going. And that's one of the things that, Baruch Hashem, helped me through my career. When things got very difficult, obviously things had to change to a certain extent. But one of the things that I've always seen as the winning recipe for people to have successful lives, whether it's a successful marriage or a successful career or even successful in their Avodat Hashem, is to constantly rewire yourself, retrain yourself, and go back to the time where you were a rookie, where you were brand new. One of the things that is something I am very jealous of, and you're allowed to be jealous in certain things, and that's when it comes to Kedusha. I'm very jealous of all of my Baalei Tshuva students, especially the new ones. The newer, the more jealous I am of them. When I hear one of these students, and Baruch Hashem, every day there's somebody new, another guy from Staten Island, another guy from Arizona, another guy from Australia, another one from different parts of the world, in England, and a woman sends me this, how she burned her wigs just the other day, and another guy sent me of how he left his non-Jewish wife, and this and that. All of these new Baalei Tshuva, every single day they kept coming. I am so jealous of them. Why? When you hear their excitement when they first discover the power of praying to Hashem, Mamash, you want to start crying. You're not even crying only because you're excited for them. You're crying for yourself sometimes. Like, how come I don't pray like this guy? I have one student. I'm telling you, when I first met him, I would get musar from him. He didn't even realize I was getting musar from him. Why? Every time he would call me, he's like, I was talking to Hashem today, and I was praying, and I just started crying. Is that normal, Rabbi? And I'm crying myself. I'm like, yeah, I wish I would cry like you. I'm thinking to this. And he's crying to Hashem every other day. He's crying to HaKadosh Baruch Hu. And then she's crying to HaKadosh Baruch Hu. On a regular prayer. They just woke up in the morning and decided to cry to HaKadosh Baruch Hu because they love him. They cry to HaKadosh Baruch Hu because they made a mistake. They cry to HaKadosh Baruch Hu because of this, because of that. You know how hard it is to cry after you are not feeling like you're a rookie anymore? And this is actually, Rabotai Karim, one of the things that Chazal teaches us. First and foremost, we say, Chitargilenu b'Toratecha. In the Birkot HaShachar, in the morning prayers, we say to Hashem, we plead to Hashem, please accustom us to learn Torah. But then on the other hand, Rashi says in Parashat Vayetchanan that your limud Torah has to be renewed. Has to be renewed every single day. Just like David HaMelech said that each day he considers his other ways and his feet as if they have their own power. Out of habit, they turn towards Hashem's testimonies, towards Hashem's Torah. Why? Because once he made Torah into a good habit, he's constantly has renewed energy. But the main thing that we learn here is that to constantly have that renewed energy, it can't come from expecting something to change every day. Rather, you yourself have to change, but not change in a sense that you have to grow in Torah every single day, but rather just mentally. Think of how you were when you first started and you first discovered prayer. How you were when you first learned this Rashi. How you learned when you first started learning Gemara. How you learned when you first started knowing anything about anything. And you start thinking like a rookie. Same concept when it comes to your career. If you're in your career already for an extended period of time, you're in that office for 5, 10 years, you're already used to it, you barely even want to go into the office anymore, you're going in there because you have a good salary, you get some good commissions, you're doing what you're doing, but in reality you don't want to be in it. You know why you don't want to be in it? Because you're thinking like a veteran, you're thinking like an old man or an old woman, as if you're about to retire, even though you're probably 20 years away from retirement. That's your mistake. You're thinking that something else will be better. If you started new business, it will be better. If you started with a new company, it will be better. Nothing would be better if you don't make yourself better. And making yourself better requires you to think like you used to. Rediscover yourself. Rediscover a way of how to do this like a new kid, like a new person, like a rookie. Same with your marriage. One of the most beautiful gifts that HaKadosh Baruch Hu gave the Jewish people is family purity, tarat mishpacha, because it forces a religious Jewish couple to renew their marriage every single month. The Goyim celebrate when they renew their marriage a second or a third time. Maybe after they cheat on each other 2 or 3 times, they have to renew it every time. Not really sure why they renew their vows. But a Jew renews their marriage every month. Why? I was with you. I loved you, I was able to be with you, but then my being with you was now limited. Why? I was able to talk to you, I was able to socialize, I was able to converse, I was able to relate to you spiritually, but I wasn't able to touch your finger even. Why? You were impure, you were forbidden to me. But then your wife went to the mikveh, and everything is new. Everything is brand new. And anyone that is very serious about family purity knows exactly what I'm talking about. There is no comparison between the secular life of misery versus a Jewish marriage of purity. There is simply No comparison. Zero comparison. It doesn't matter how people look and how beautiful they are and their physical shape. Nothing compares to a Jewish marriage of purity. Simply nothing. And I don't just mean one aspect, I mean all around. And it's every single month you get to renew your marriage. And the minute you start treating your marriage like an old pair of shoes, that's when everything goes downhill. That's when the husband doesn't even care if she goes to the mikveh. That's when she doesn't even want to go to the mikveh. That's when everything starts being like abandoned property. Nobody wants to do anything with it. And that's a sad reality, but it's your fault. You made it that way. You made it old. Torah says renew it every month. You decided not to listen to the Torah. Yeah, but Rabbi, I cover my head. Good for you, you cover your head. Maybe you'll realize that you should have covered your head, but also your mouth also, and not say all these things. Perhaps your marriage would be better. No, but Rabbi, but I keep kosher and I learn Torah every day. Good for you that you learn Torah every day. Perhaps in Gehenom they'll allow you to learn some more Torah because you couldn't make your wife happy for a single minute. The reality is, Rabotai Karim, everybody is always complaining about what they don't have because they don't realize that the problems they have are their own doings. You're treating your spouse like it's old shoes. You're treating your spouse like it's just something like, I don't want this anymore. If you treated each other with the same passion and excitement like when you first met, like brand new, how great would it be? That's what family purity is supposed to help you with. It's not alone by itself going to help you. Somebody can go to the mikveh every single month and still have a miserable life. It's not just by itself. Everything has to go along with it. But the key is to understand is that the mentality of renewing everything is critical in your servitude of Hashem, in your work, in your marriage, in your parenting. Sometimes you get so frustrated with one of two or three or all of your kids, they say, you know what camp can I send them to? Can't they take like an after-school class like all year? Like all the time, like 24 hours a day? Isn't there like a dorm room or something? Like you want to send them away because you're just like, I can't already. They're driving me crazy. They're breaking the house. The house is a mess. But you didn't say that when they were first born. You didn't say that when they're acting good. You didn't say that all the time. You wanna do tshuva. Remember those times when you didn't have kids. Remember those times when they were first born. Remember those times when things were good, even if that was 15 minutes ago. Get yourself back to that mindset. Get yourself back to that mindset and stop thinking that your kids are old shoes that you don't need anymore, some garbage that you could just simply wait for the sanitation department to pick up. Think of things like a rookie. Think of things like a new Baal Tshuva. That is an exciting thing. And for me, every single time I talk to a Baal Tshuva, I hear their story, I hear how they pray, I hear how they're discovering new things. Everything is new to them. It's like a brand new baby. Brand new baby in the world. Rabbi, did you know that there was a guy named Pharaoh that was enslaved Am Yisrael for almost 200 years? Yeah, I did. You knew that, Rabbi? Yeah, I knew it. Yeah, I heard about that before. Wow, that's amazing. And they got out, and it was this Moses guy. This Moses guy is amazing, Rabbi. You ever heard of him? Yeah, it's a chidush. Yeah, I heard of Moses. Heard of Moses. And you just let them talk. Why? It's amazing. It doesn't matter. It could be a 45-year-old old man, a woman, or a 15-year-old kid. It's always amazing to hear the fire of a new person. It's amazing. And you have to bring yourself back there. If you don't like other people's new fire, that's because you hate yourself, because you're an old fire. Fix yourself. Bring yourself to be new again, and you'll enjoy your life a lot more. You enjoy yourself a lot more. You enjoy your marriage a lot more. Your parenthood a lot more. Your avodat Hashem a lot more. Your job a lot more. It's literally a choice. A choice of simply, I have to stop with these bad habits that are causing me to think like I'm old. I'm simply unfixable. This is just the way it is mentality. No. I'm still alive. I can still do stuff. I can still fix stuff. Person changes is a person that starts to win. Now, of course, Rabotai Yekarim, this requires what's called Mesirut Nefesh. There is no success in life, especially when it comes to the servitude of Hashem, without Mesirut Nefesh, which is sacrifice, self-sacrifice. And one of the things that you'll see in the world is that there are certain people that just simply, they're not willing to sacrifice, either because they're content with their misery, simply because they don't believe that the other side is greener, even though their side is as dark as the Black Plague. Or sometimes people are just spiritually lazy, or they're addicted to their sins. But either way, there are certain people that just don't want to do it. But there are many that are willing to do it. You just need to turn on the fire a little bit. Just like you have that stovetop, that barbecue. Everybody gets excited when the fire is really, really hot. You realize that that fire is in there the whole time. All you need to do is just turn a little fire and whoosh. That fire is in that person. That fire is in that container. That fire is there. Just somebody needs to get it started. And that's in essence one of the goals we have in life. And what we do as an organization, whether it's myself, Rabbi Ephraim, Rav Chaim, Rabbi Leib, the entire staff at Bezrat Hashem, all of our tzaddikim at the Kollel, that's our goal, to start that fire, to keep that fire on. That's the goal. And the Torah is the fire of all fires. But again, that fire by itself is not going to be enough if the person is not willing to jump into it, is not willing to self-sacrifice a little bit. And sometimes you'll see people completely turn against Hashem, and become wicked. And as the Chafetz Chaim says, those people, don't get confused if you see them. Don't get confused if you see people going against Hashem, especially those people that used to be religious. Don't get confused. Why? He says, if you ever saw a person take a bunch of money and throw it out in the garbage, and then more money and throw it in the garbage, and gold and coins and throw it in the garbage, and diamonds and throw it in the garbage. Now surely, you're going to think that person is crazy, you're going to think that person is insane, you're going to think a lot of things. But you're not sure. One thing you are sure about is that all that money, it can't be his. That's what the Chafetz Chaim says. All that money, all those jewels, all that gold that he's throwing in the garbage, it's not his. That's why he's throwing it out. If it was his, meaning if he worked for it, if he toiled for it, he wouldn't have such an easy time throwing it out. All of those people that are abandoning the Torah, whether it's those disgraceful people that are on television, on this Netflix show, or it's all of these other people that are trying to claim some type of fame, some 15-minute of fame before they go to eternal Gehenom, all of those people, don't be so confused by them. They simply never toiled for Torah to own it. And even if they toiled for a moment of their life, that momentary toil doesn't count as toil. Why? Your toil is only valuable as long as it continues. As long as it continues. Because if somebody keeps hammering something, hammer something for 2 years. He's hammering. He's looking for a diamond. And then guess what? He decides, you know what? There's no diamond in this hole. I'm done. Takes the hammer, throws in the garbage. Somebody else comes. Hammers, 2 minutes later, a whole slew of diamonds. You think that second guy is going to give any diamonds to the first guy? No. Is the first guy getting any credit for what he did? No. Why? He didn't finish the job. Yeah, but he prepared it, but he this, but he that. You can say that until you're blue in the face. It's still worth nothing. All of those people where they learned in yeshiva, or they learned somewhere, but then eventually they abandoned the Torah, that toil is worth nothing. That's why they're throwing the Torah. That's why they're throwing the Torah away. And that's one of the keys that a person needs to know. And when they see such people, like some of these heretics going in against the Torah, don't get confused. It's just people that got used to bad habits, to the point where those bad habits became what runs their life. And that's what the next part of the Gaon Vilna's letter is discussing, where the Gaon Vilna says, Ki rasha יודע בעצמו שרע ומר דרכו, אך שקשה לו לפרוש. כי זה כל האדם. He says, for the wicked person knows that he's taking a bad and bitter path, but it's hard for him to distance himself from his bad deeds. For this is man's entire task in the world. Comes the Gaon Vilna and tells us, listen, you see bad people, they look happy to you. Let me tell you something. Not only they're not happy, but they know that they're bad. That guy that's driving on Shabbat, inside himself, he knows he's not doing the right thing. You see that guy that pretends to be an atheist? Inside himself, he knows he's wrong. But he's simply so wicked that he's gotten used to all of his habits, all of his bad habits, all of his bad ways. He knows that they're bad, but it's hard for him to distance himself. Look at people like this wicked person, Stephen Hawking, who died like a simple animal that he came into the world as. And all he has to say to himself is that after all of these years that he learned and he taught and he went through physical hardship, what is his 3 minutes of conclusion for his entire life? One, as long as there's life, there's hope. That is what he learned, how everything is. That's how he sums up his whole life. As long as there's life, there's hope. Meaning, he himself has no hope. His whole life is simply worth garbage. According to himself. Not only according to the Torah. According to the Torah, it's worse than garbage. He's in Gehenom and he's never going to come out for being an atheist and most of his life, and at the end of his life being an atheist and teaching other people to be atheists and things like that. But this guy that was gifted with a huge mental capacity, he says, if there's life, there's hope. Meaning he himself knows that his life is worthless since he has no life in this world anymore. But that's because he didn't believe in an afterlife. He didn't believe in something bigger than him. And that's why his second point is even more miserable than the first. He says that throughout all of his journeys, all of his life, it sums up that, he got to learn more about the world, and perhaps we got a little closer to figuring out why we came into this world and what is the thing, what are the laws that are running this world. Now, if this fool would have simply opened a Sefer Torah and followed what HaKadosh Baruch Hu said, Bereshit bara Elokim et hashamayim v'et haaretz, HaKadosh Baruch Hu created the world. If HaKadosh Baruch Hu created the world with so much wisdom, surely he has all of these laws in it that are physical, but surely he created all of these physical laws for a purpose, for a reason that's much more than just the physical aspect of it. And if this person would have not ignored his creator and ignored the instructions that his creator gave him, he would have had a much more successful eternity, not just life. But this person spent an entire life going through all types of difficulties to no avail, just to come up with even less knowledge than he came into the world with. Because when he came into the world, that neshama knew that its creator created it. That donkey knew its owner. But this person that left the world denied its owner for decades and even told other people, listen, one day maybe you guys will figure out what laws are governing this world. What's the point of this world? Why are we here? Why do people arrive at such warped conclusions? Simple. Arrogance. They do not want to believe that anything else is bigger than them. And even when they realize that it's inevitable to find things that they're bigger than them, they say, yeah, it's bigger than me, but that's only because it's not like me. It's a universe. It's a planet. It's a star. Like, they can't believe that there's a person that's bigger than them, or that there's a creator that is bigger than them. That's just too tough for them. Why? Because if he's bigger than me, then that means that I have to listen to him. I'm willing to say that he's bigger than me, but he's not allowed to tell me what to do. He's a mountain, he is a planet, he is all types of things. But if you're telling me this bigger entity is also commanding me to change my bad habits, that's already too far. Now, what if I show you that it's true? Say, listen, even if you show me that it's true, it's still hard for me to change. And that's actually one of the things that Rav Yehuda Lefkowitz, alav shalom, says that he himself got word from one of the famous professors of his time, who said, Rabbi, I can attest to you that from all of my experience in teaching, the best people that I've ever met, both as teacher, student, or people in general, colleagues, best people I've ever met, the most civil people I've ever met, the most kind people I've ever met were the religious Jewish people. And I know that everything the Jewish people are doing is true. He himself was Jewish, this professor. But I am too old and too used to my bad habits to change. Meaning that this professor was so used to his bad habits that he simply found it impossible to change his ways. And that, Rabotai, is a person that's addicted to their sins. Sadly, they're lying to themselves. Because as long as a person is alive, they can change. They can change. They just need to have the inspiration. And sometimes a person will be fortunate enough to inspire themselves. And sometimes HaKadosh Baruch Hu will inspire them, although that would usually be more painful, more traumatic, more extreme. But nonetheless, sometimes there are people that they are refusing to keep the fire going. Even if you inspire them, they themselves shut it off. No, it can't be true. But yeah, but you just proved that it's true. Yeah, but even though he did, listen, I don't want to do it. Why? Why don't you want to do it? I just don't want to do it. And they'll sometimes even arrive at a point where they say, listen, I agree, it's all true, I'm simply not willing to do it. Why? Because what you're telling me to do is change my whole life. I don't want to change my whole life. Yeah, but you realize that if you continue your life, you're going to get punished. And then they're going to start coming up with all types of excuses of how, yeah, but maybe it's not this. But you just said it is. Yeah, it is, but not when it's referring to me. And that's, unfortunately, one of the things that you can see sometimes in front of your eyes, a person that is all there mentally, a person that's bright, a person that is generally mature, simply refuse to accept the truth because they refuse to change their bad habits and convert them into good ones. Hence the reason why Kadosh Baruch Hu sometimes has to get involved. But this is part of the reason of why Shlomo HaMelech says in Kohelet chapter 7 verse 8, Tov acharit davar mireshito. The end of the matter is better than its beginning. Where a person that understands that, yes, the beginning is difficult, and then you have Shlomo HaMelech says that the end is better than the beginning. Okay, so what's in the middle? What's in the middle? The beginning is difficult. The end is better. What's in the middle? Don't worry about what's in the middle. Understand where you're at. You may be in the beginning. You may be at the end. But the main thing you need to focus on is why you're at this point or that point. If you're at the end, that's usually not true. It's only because you think it's the end. So you have a incorrect perception of where your life is at. A negative perception of life, a incorrect perception of life. Unless you are 100% correct and you've already spent your time and so on, that also is possible. On the other hand, if you're in the beginning, it should be a very exciting time. But then I just told you that beginning is hard. The beginning is hard only if you don't see the value of the beginning. What Shlomo HaMelech is trying to tell us is that the end is better than the beginning, not because the beginning is hard and you're eventually happy that that hardship was over. Because the hardship technically continues. but rather a person that understands the value of a hard beginning knows that this hard beginning is the only reason why they were able to reach that latter point. Meaning that because you had that original difficulty dealing with the regulators, dealing with the competition, dealing with financial issues, dealing with all types of things, because you were able to overcome those major difficulties to get started, when those difficulties arrived again, you were able to achieve them and overcome them much easier because you had that pre-existing experience. And when you had other difficulties, new ones come, you aren't as nervous because you already had a successful track record. In fact, due to your original difficulty in building the foundation, you ended up succeeding in building an entire empire. And it's not because the beginning was not difficult. It's actually due to the fact that the beginning was difficult. And that's what Shlomo HaMelech is trying to teach us. But sometimes a person refuses to go to a beginning. They want to remain with their wicked ways. They want to remain with their ways that they're accustomed to. And that's actually the way of a Rasha. In their servitude of Hashem, that's the way of a Rasha, where they simply know the truth, but they refuse to change their ways. Now, the Gaon Mivilna continues and he says that Lapetach hatat rovetz v'shalit alav yitzro, that this person that refuses to change from the bitter and bad path that they know is bitter and bad, knows that the evil inclination is waiting for them at the door, overwhelming them, imposing them on will. They know that it's the evil inclination is causing them to cheat and lie and this and that, but they simply don't want to start that fight. You can tell a person, listen, that relationship is not good for you. Why don't you break it up? Listen, to go find another one, start all over again. Yeah, but this one's not healthy for you. It's not a healthy relationship. She doesn't want to do it. He doesn't want to do it. Both of you are your mind is somewhere else. It's simply not a healthy relationship. He is not ready to move forward. She is not ready to move forward or move backwards. The reality is, it's not a healthy relationship. Yeah, but this is what I have. No, this is what you choose. This is what you choose. It's like when I tell people, listen, why are you still working for that guy? Why are you still working at that career? Listen, it's what I have. Aren't you supposed to teach, be happy with your share? Yes, be happy with your share, but what you have is not even a share. What you have is abuse. What you have is a nightmare. What you have is slavery. You're working endless hours, endless good results, but you're getting paid like you're the busboy, barely surviving on tips. That's not a normal thing. Why do you stay there? To start somewhere new, at least I know these people. That's a bad way. That's a bad habit. That's a bad habit that a person is choosing to have. He's choosing to have. Same concept when it comes to their servitude of Hashem. A person can know that what they're doing is bad. A person can know that they're going on a bad direction. A person can know that it's the evil inclination that's constantly reminding him of all the filth of the world. Constantly bringing him to bad websites full of filth. Constantly bringing him in front of the bad people that cause him to do bad things. Constantly bringing him to bad opportunities. He knows it's the evil inclination. He's heard of it before. He knows it exists. He knows the devil's in the details. But he chooses to do nothing. He chooses to do nothing. And the secret is, there's a reason for all of this. There's a reason for all of this. The Gemara in Masechet Kiddushin, page 30b, says, HaKadosh Baruch Hu says to Am Yisrael, I created the evil inclination, and I created the Torah as an antidote. Now, HaKadosh Baruch Hu, that created the evil inclination, makes a special announcement to us that he created the evil inclination. How come he never announced to us that he created Malach Gabriel? How come he never announced to us that he created Malach Raphael? How come he never announced to us a special announcement that he created this and that? Why does he make this special announcement that he created the evil inclination? Why? Why do I need this special announcement that this evil inclination that's constantly torturing me, getting me angry, getting me frustrated, getting me this, getting me lonely, getting me depressed, getting me in all types of ways I don't want to be, all types of situations I don't want to do. How come Hashem is telling me that he created it? Well, let's see. This angel, you're telling me you created. Okay, so let's think about this angel. If we look at the Midrash, we look at the Zohar, we look at the Gemara, we look at people that had near-death experience and saw the Malach HaMavet, they all describe the same thing. What is it? It's a giant angel from one end of the world to the other end of the world, in so many words, full of eyes of all the sinners are on him. He has endless power. He's a genius beyond belief. He's alive already for thousands of years. He's much stronger than I am, much smarter than I am. I don't have a chance. I don't have a chance. You're telling me, why didn't you tell me you created Malach Gabriel, that he's going to come and like be my chavruta, like he was with the prophet Daniel. Prophet Daniel, his chavruta, study partner was Malach Gabriel. Okay, send him to me. What about Eliyahu Navi? Eliyahu Navi, Zachur Letov, was the chavruta of Rabbi Yeshua ben Levi. Send him to me. Tell me I created Eliyahu Navi. He's going to come help you. No, but Hashem did not do that. He didn't say, Rabotai, I created Eliyahu Navi. Rabotai, I created all these other... No, I created Malach HaMavet. I created the Yetzer Hara. Why do I need to know this? Why is there a special announcement for me to know this? He says, because this Yetzer Hara, that's the resistance, that is the enticement to do everything against Hashem, to do everything against yourself, your own self-interest. That's the resistance, that's the power. And that power is more powerful than you, even if you go to the gym every day. That power is more powerful than you, even if you're the smartest guy in the world. That power is more powerful than you, even if you are the most humble and modest woman in the world. That power is more powerful than you. And there's only one way to beat it. Only one way to beat it. HaKadosh Baruch Hu says, Torah Tavlin. Torah Tavlin. The Torah is the ingredient, is the potion to beat it. You're not going to be able to beat it with your other strategies of ignoring it, of simply not doing what it says. It's not going to happen. Why? He's going to come to you in so many different ways, shapes or sizes, you're not even going to know it's him. The Gemara says that the Malach HaMavet has 7 names. Why do I care if he has 7 names or 700 names? What do I care his names are? When I start to pray to him? Why do I care what his names are? The Gemara is trying to teach us 7 names, in essence trying to teach you that he comes to you in all of the different directions, right, left, front, back, up, down, comes to you in all directions. You have to realize the Malach HaMavet is going to come to you through your spouse, through your kids, through your job, sometimes through a Shiur Torah, sometimes through your best friend. Yetzer Hara is coming in every way, shape, or size. Sometimes he's your best friend, sometimes he's your enemy, sometimes this, sometimes that. He's coming. And the only way you can beat him is with Torah. That Torah. But then you're going to say, hold on a second. Women are not commanded to learn Torah. So what does that mean? Women can just do whatever the Yetzer Hara says? Absolutely not. So what do? Women have to understand what Torah means. What do you mean what Torah means? The definition of Torah is not the same for both men and women. And that's what the Gaon Vilna says next. Gaon Vilna says that this Rasha who doesn't want to change his ways despite knowing that they're wrong, this Rasha who knows that the evil inclination is waiting for him at the door, overwhelming him, this Rasha knows that there's one thing to beat it, and that's the Torah. It says in the remedy for the Yetzer Hara's influence for men, v'tavlin shelo l'scharim esek haTorah. The remedy for the Yetzer Hara's influence for men, for scharim, is to occupy themselves in Torah. ולנקבות, הצניעות והנהגת המידות ומוסר. And for women, it's modesty and behavior reflecting on good midot and musar teachings. And this is man's primary task. Not to go after his desires, to restrain himself with a muzzle and bridle when he is being groomed. It's a pasuk in Tehillim, chapter 32, verse 9. So here we see that the Gaon Vilna is elaborating what Torah means. Many times you'll see that women have a much easier time listening to Shiurei Torah. In fact, you have some people that have entire events just for women. A regular weekly class for the same group of women, which by the way is forbidden for a man to do that. But nonetheless, because it creates all types of issues. But nonetheless, why would a rabbi want to teach a whole group of women? Why don't he go teach men? Assuming that the rabbi himself is kosher. Why would he want? Because it's easier to get women to come to a shiur Torah. It's easier to get women to listen to a shiur Torah. It's easier. Why? They don't have the same evil inclination strength on their learning Torah, because it's not their primary obligation. They need to do it, as the Gaon Vilna says. They need to learn musar. They need to learn what they're doing right, what they're doing wrong, to fix their behavior. They need to learn the modesty laws. Of course, they need to learn the basic halachot of how to live, whether it's to keep Shabbat, holidays, things like that. But the deeper Torah learning of Gemara, Torah learning of poskim, and so on and so forth, a woman is not obligated to do it. In fact, she shouldn't do it until she becomes an expert in everything else, which is a lifetime in itself. So why would somebody have a shiur full of women? They don't have the same evil inclination. So they, since they're not obligated to do it, the Yetzer Hara doesn't interfere with them doing it. Because he says they're not even fulfilling their mission. And sometimes you'll see a woman come to a shiur Torah for 1, 2, 3 years, and then you find out that she looks like a tzadikah from Mount Sinai, but the husband is still working on Shabbat. He asks him, how come you don't switch? You stay home and you bring your husband here so maybe we can get him to do tshuva. Oh no, I like the shiur, it's my favorite shiur, it's my Torah's priority. And the woman treats their Torah as priority over their husbands. And there's really almost no greater mistake than that. But that's because they do not understand the definition of Torah is different for men and women. The Torah of a woman, first and foremost, is what the Gaon Vilna says. She has to learn musar, she has to fix her character traits, she has to obviously be modest. That's the Torah of a woman. That's the mission of a woman. But also, of course, as the Gemara says, she has to send her husband and her children to go learn Torah. That's her ticket to Olam Haba. And that is what's going to give her the strength to overcome the evil inclination that's coming from her girlfriends, that's coming from her family, the evil inclination that's coming from all types of financial issues, all types of type of emotional issues, roller coaster that you deal with. If you have Torah, you're going to be able to deal with the Yetzer Hara. But if you stop learning Torah, you stop doing what you're supposed to be doing. You stop learning musar. You stop being modest. You start talking like a truck driver. You don't push your husband and your kids to learn more and more Torah. You're not fulfilling your job. You're not fulfilling your Torah. And all of a sudden, you find yourself making more sins. All of a sudden, you find yourself more inclined to do the things that you weren't doing when you were doing the right thing. Oh, what got into me? Nothing. That's the problem. Nothing got into you. No real thing that you were supposed to do got into you. You were doing all the wrong things, and hence that's what happened. Now, here we see that the HaKadosh Baruch Hu made an extraordinary announcement to Am Yisrael, telling us that this Yetzer Hara, this Malach HaMavet, this Satan, that's constantly a resistance, constantly trying to be something that's causing us to do the opposite of what we're supposed to be doing. He is more powerful than us. He is smarter than us, but there's a way to beat him. Are there ways to beat him? No. There's a way to beat him. Now, what happens if a person doesn't learn Torah? What if a person doesn't learn Torah? The Gaon Vilna says, since the sole remedy to battle the Yetzer Hara is to learn Torah, a person needs to understand the significance of what that really means. Understand the significance of what that really means. Now, the Mesilat Yesharim, the Ramchal, says in chapter 5 that HaKadosh Baruch Hu told us that He's the one that created the Yetzer Hara. And HaKadosh Baruch Hu also told us that He gave us a remedy, a way to beat the Yetzer Hara. So to not listen to the doctor of all doctors, healer of all healers, king of all kings, creator of all creations, not to listen to his instructions and think that there's another way, a better way, is simply foolish. Why? Because the Mesilat Yesharim says, if, let's say, a person was, chas v'shalom, was in a major illness, their life was on the line, say they were chronically ill and terminally ill. But the doctor says, listen, you're not 100% gone, you're still here, and I have the medicine. I have the medicine for you. This is the medicine. This is the cure. To make some of you smile, this is the vaccine. Now you, with no scientific background, the closest you've gotten to a science class in the last 20 years is watching YouTube videos. In reality, you have no concept what you're talking about when it comes to medicine. The only thing you know about medicine is how to open the bottle of the pills. That's all you know. You decide, you know what? I'm not going to take this medicine. I'm going to take something else. What are you going to take? I'm going to take some vitamin D. Yeah, but the doctor came. He's in the business. He's an expert. He's world-renowned. He's the best of the best for 30, 40 years. He says you are in critical condition. You know you are in critical condition because look at you. You're terrible. You look terrible, right? You're dying. You're spitting blood. There's stuff coming out of your ears. Your hair is I have to say Kaddish on it. It's not there anymore. You don't look so good. And he gave you the drug to cure all of it. And instead of listening to him, you decided that you're going to take vitamin D. You decided that you're going to take vitamin E. You decided that you're going to go drink rainwater. You decided that you're going to do some push-ups and sit-ups, and that's going to cure you. While putting his cure on the side. Now, had you had expertise in the subject and your expertise is superior to his, then I understand. But you don't have expertise superior than his. In fact, you don't have expertise at all, but yet you're choosing this. And says the Ramchal, this person is surely going to die because they're a fool. The person that does not listen to HaKadosh Baruch Hu, who is the healer of all the sick, the creator of all creations. He's the one that created the disease, the Yetzer Hara, the Satan, but he's also the one that told you this is the cure. And you insist on trying to beat this disease in a different way and put Hashem's cure on the shelf. Perhaps you're a fool. Perhaps you don't really understand or believe what's on the line. So for that, we'll have to learn a little bit more from some of the Gaon Vilna's Talmidim. When you want to learn Torah, you have to learn not just from the Rav, you have to learn sometimes from his Talmidim. Because his Talmidim, that learned from him, were able to see things that perhaps weren't always written by the Rav. The Talmid Muvak of the Gaon Vilna is Rabbi Chaim Volozhin. Rabbi Chaim Volozhin lived about 250 years ago. giant Gaon, giant Tzaddik, took upon himself the mission to build the Yeshiva Mivolozhin at a time where the Torah world was dealing with the collateral damage of the fake Messiah, Shabtai Tzvi, Yimach Shemo V'Zichro, also the massacres that were happening at the time, the Khmelnytsky massacre, and really the Torah world being in a downturn. He understood the ramifications not only because he learned from his Rav, the Gaon Vilna, but he himself was an accomplished Talmid Chacham. And in his Sefer, Nefesh HaChaim, in Shar Dalit, in the fourth gate, chapter 24, Rabbi Chaim Volozhin, who simply understood the necessity of Torah not only to a person but to society, so much so that he had his yeshiva operate 24 hours a day. Somebody had to be learning. Why? Because there's a pasuk in the Torah that says, Im lo briti yomam v'layla, chukot shamayim v'aretz lo samti. The Torah says, if not for my covenant, meaning my Torah, being learned day and night, the laws of the world will cease to exist. Meaning that HaKadosh Baruch Hu, if there isn't somebody that is learning Torah in his world, and every given moment, in a 24-hour day, at any given moment, somebody has to be learning Torah, hence the reason why Hashem created people in different parts of the world, and the hours being different, where here we are 7-hour difference to Israel, 17 hours or so, or 14 hours or so from Australia, and X amount of hours from different places. Why? So HaKadosh Baruch Hu says when it's day here, it's night there. And somebody can always be learning Torah. Over there, they're learning at night. Over here, they're good in the morning. Over here in the afternoon. And there's an opportunity for the world to continue re-energizing itself through the Torah learning of some Talmid. But Rabbi Chaim Volozhin took it to the next level. He says, what if you're that Talmid? Meaning, what if the entire world is simply not learning Torah for different reasons? Everybody's got their own yetzirah, their own excuse. This guy's tired, that guy doesn't feel well, this guy's working, this guy's dealing with some problems, and so on and so forth. And in reality, if you don't learn Torah the next few minutes, Hashem is simply going to destroy the world. He's not going to destroy the world like he did at the time of Noach, like we learned in last week's parasha, where he already told Noach, the whole world is corrupt, they're all wasting seed, they've all lost their right to exist, I'm simply going to destroy everybody, and yet there's still 120 years later before that actually happens, giving everybody a chance to do tshuva for 120 years. Unfortunately, they didn't do tshuva. Needless to say, Hashem destroyed the world. But here, in this verse, Hashem says, no, if not for my covenant, day and night, the world will cease to exist instantly. Meaning that the world will simply stop existing. It doesn't need a flood or a fire or anything else. It'll simply stop existing. And one of the ways that a person that has a little bit of knowledge in science knows that's simply how a reality like this could happen. Not that Hashem needs to use our ideas, but nonetheless, just to put a little bit of a visual on this idea, is anyone that knows how an atom, which is pretty much everything in the world, not pretty much, it is everything in the world, is atoms. The atoms, 3 different parts that are constantly rotating. In reality, most of them, 99.99% of them, is empty space. And the only reason why everything in the world looks like it's solid, whether it's my hand, or the microphone, or the walls, or the ceilings, or whatever it is that's in the world, looks like it's something physical, and it's not a bunch of things spinning, is because it's spinning so fast. In so many words, if the spinning would stop, then the emptiness of everything in the world would be exposed, which is literally 99.999% of everything is empty space. Just like they say that most of a cucumber is water, if you took out the water out of the cucumber, there wouldn't be like something left. It would be simply nothing. Same concept here. If you took out the spinning and you exposed the emptiness, there would literally be virtually nothing in comparison. and the world would cease to exist in an instant. So the Gaon Vilna knew that if there's a possibility, however great or small, that you are that Talmid that needs to be learning in order for the world to continue existing, then that's a big responsibility. You can't put that on one person, can't put it on two people. So what did he do? He had a yeshiva system where there was people learning in the morning, people learning at night. Now, on the other hand, now that you understand how serious the Rabbi Chaim Volozhin was when it came to learning Torah, what did he say? What did he teach us about people that don't learn Torah? So in the fourth gate, in chapter 24, Rabbi Chaim Volozhin says the following, and I'm reading this verbatim. The sages strongly condemn a person who had the opportunity to learn Torah and did not learn, or a person who has learned Torah but stopped learning. They deplore it so severely that with their Ruach HaKodesh, they declare that this person is barred from the world to come. And so, the Gemara in Masechet Sanhedrin, page 99a says, since he has shown contempt of Hashem's word and violated his commandment, that person shall be utterly cut off. Iggeret nafsho. It's a verse in a Chumash Bamidbar, chapter 15, verse 31. So, Rabbi Chaim Volozhin brings a source, brings a Gemara that sages teach. Person that can learn Torah but chooses not to is considered as if he contempted the entire Torah, even if he keeps Shabbat and he keeps kosher and he goes to shul, but he doesn't learn Torah. Sages teach us this person gets the worst possible punishment in the same place that the people that waste seed on purpose and violate Shabbat and worship idols, as it mentions in the Gemara, Masechet Rosh Hashanah, page 17a and 16b, and then Masechet Sanhedrin and Masechet Shabbat, and a bunch of other places where it talks about people that are going to Gehinnom permanently. It says a person that is not learning Torah, that person has a very, very serious problem. Why? He's in the same place as them. Doesn't make it seem severe. Okay, he learns once in a while whenever he gets a chance. Rabbi Chaim Volozhin says, you can do what you want, once in a while, once it is, but there's a price for it. What's the price? Our sages teach us that if he can learn and he doesn't, Iggeret nafsho. Now, he continues. Rabbi Neorai says, this refers to anyone who has the opportunity to engage in Torah study but does not. And the sages explain the double expression of what Iggeret means. It means that Rabbi Chaim Volozhin says that the soul shall be utterly cut off, as implying that he shall be cut off both in this world and Olam Haba, and the world to come. Because the karet punishment of such a person is far graver than the karet given for other sins. If one is condemned to karet for other sins, let's say he ate food on Yom Kippur, or he ate chametz on Pesach, that's a karet sin. But Rabbi Chaim Volozhin teaches us here, he hasn't lost a share of the world to come. What did he lose then if he has a karet sin? He lost a small spark of the soul that committed the sin, and it's cut off now from its divine root. But the present verse, Iggeret nafsho, stresses emphatically that it means that his entire soul has lost its share in the world to come. Here we learn that to not learn Torah when you can is viewed in Shamayim as much, much worse than we can imagine. Your average person says, listen, I'll learn when I get a chance, once a week, 10 minutes here and there, once a month. What's the big deal? I'm not killing nobody. Okay, you may not be a murderer of other people, but you're murdering your own soul due to the fact that you're not learning Torah. Because that Torah is the only cure that can help you beat the Yetzer Hara and help you fulfill your mission in the world. But since that's not enough to motivate you, come the Chachamim and tell us, if you don't learn Torah, you have a lot more on the line than just not being able to beat the Yetzer Hara. What's on the line? Everything. All of that stuff that you're doing, it goes in the garbage if you don't learn Torah. Why? That's in essence what they're teaching here. And you say, okay, listen, that's Rabbi Chaim Volozhin's interpretation of what the sages are saying. It's not halacha. Wrong. It is halacha. And that's what Rabbi Chaim Volozhin stresses further now. The Rambam, Ilchot Talmud Torah, chapter 3, halacha number 13. Paskans la halacha. Rabbeinu Yonah, Sharei Tshuva, gate number 3, section 153. And also the Bet Yosef, Rabbi Yosef Karo, Shulchan Aruch, Yoreh De'ah, Siman 245. All paskin la halacha. That this is the case. And they mentioned that the Rambam and Rabbeinu Yonah enumerate 10 levels of sin. On the 10th level are sins for which the sinner is denied a share of the world to come. Included in this group are those who are able to study Torah but don't. And the Rambam and the Bet Yosef, which is Rabbi Yosef Karo Shulchan Aruch, both state that a person who previously learned Torah but then took up worldly frivolities, abandoning his Torah studies, is judged as one who was able to study but did not. His punishment fits his misdeed. Here is an interesting section that Rabbi Chaim Volozhin starts explaining to us why is the punishment so severe, or at least from our perspective, it's very severe. Even the commentator on this book initially says, look, initially when you hear this, it sounds like Rabbi Chaim Volozhin and the rest of the sages are going a little bit fanatic on us. Because if you look at other sin, at other crimes that a person loses their olam haba, those people usually do something. He wasted seed. He violated Shabbat. He ate something during a fast of Yom Kippur. He ate chametz on Pesach. He touched his wife when she was nida, and so on and so forth. They did something. Whereas when somebody did not learn Torah, it seems more like a passive sin. So why should he get an even worse punishment for something that seems to us like a passive sin? He didn't do anything. He just didn't learn. It's his loss. Why does he have to lose everything for that? Comes Rabbi Chaim Volozhin and says the following. His punishment fits his misdeed. Meaning, you can't even feel bad for this guy that doesn't learn Torah. It fits. He deserves it. Why? His deplorable deed keeps him away from goodness. What deplorable deed? The deed of not learning Torah. When he can. When he has the ability to. We're not talking about somebody that's like dead in a coma. We're not talking about somebody that doesn't have a mental capacity because he has some type of sickness and half of his brain is not functioning like a human. We're not talking about somebody who doesn't even know what Torah is yet. We're talking about somebody who knows what Torah is and simply chooses to watch basketball instead. Simply watches baseball instead. Simply watch the stock market instead. Does not learn Torah on a regular basis. That person, Iggeret nafsho Hashem yishmor. We're talking about the worst of the worst situations for not learning Torah. And Rabbi Chaim Volozhin, which the entire yeshiva system in the world today stands on him. All of the yeshiva systems are simply learning based off of his limud, of what Rabbi Chaim Volozhin built 200 years ago. All the yeshivas in the world agree with what I'm saying to you. Because that's what they're all based on. Says the following. This person that does not learn Torah when he could, his deeds are deplorable. Because he had the opportunity to study Torah, but callously chose a bad deal for himself. For others, and for all the higher worlds. He spurned the Holy Torah. He spurned the light of all the worlds, the path to draw him close to the Holy One, blessed be He. He tried to tear down the king's palace and dim the abundant light that illuminates all the worlds and his soul. Why should he deserve everlasting life? By not seeing the light of eternal life, he has cut himself off from Gan Eden. He refused to be bound up in the bond of life with God, going from bad to worse. Woe to the shame! The sages said that at the end of time, when the dead will awaken for everlasting life, he will not be resurrected. Commenting on the verse, may your dead come to life, for your dew is like the dew that revives the vegetation. May you topple the wicked to the ground. In Isaiah 26 verse 19, the Gemara in Masechet Ketubot, page 111b says, a person who makes use of the light of the Torah will be revived by the light of the Torah, but the person who does not make use of the light of the Torah will not be revived by the light of the Torah. So here first, Rabbi Chaim Volozhin throws an atomic bomb on all of us that are simply winging it. He learns one day here, one day there, an hour here, hour there, but as far as a regular learning, he doesn't have. He doesn't have. If it's not on YouTube, he doesn't learn it. Yeah, but Shabbat, holidays, you can't watch YouTube. So what do? Oh, I don't learn on those days. I relax with the family. A person that can learn and doesn't learn, Rabbi Chaim Volozhin says that person deserves no mercy for getting the worst possible punishment. Why? Because he tried to tear down the king's palace. Meaning he is, with his lack of learning, he tried to destroy the world. How is he, by him not learning, trying to destroy the world? What I said before. Im lo briti yomam v'layla, if not for my covenant day and night, the world will cease to exist. Comes Rabbi Chaim Volozhin and says, you were so selfish to fulfill your own desires that you forgot there's other people in the world. And what if I couldn't learn, even though I learn all the time, but I couldn't learn at that moment? And he couldn't learn, even though he learns all the time, but he couldn't learn that moment. And nobody else could learn, even though they learn all the other times. But really, the whole world depended on your learning. But you instead decided to go watch football. You instead decided to go play baseball. You want us to feel bad for you? You put all of our lives on the line. You tried to destroy God's world with your lack of learning. Not God, chas v'shalom, because God has nobody that can't hurt him even. No one can add to him, no one can subtract from him. But his kingdom, his nation, you almost destroyed all of them by your lack of learning. And not only was it a one-time thing, we're talking about on a regular basis. On a regular basis. How could such a person deserve to be part of the eternal world? This person is literally trying to destroy the world. And that was paskin ta'alacha, Rabotai Yekarim. Woe to the shame. This person does all types of mitzvot, but he doesn't learn Torah. Resurrection of the dead doesn't apply to him either. But then Rabbi Chaim Volozhin reminds us of another thing. There are some people that can't learn. Not that they don't want to learn, they can't learn. Why? He works non-stop. He works non-stop. He has major issues, simply can't do it, burdened with poverty. Even though the halakha is that a person should toil in Torah regardless of whether he's poor, or he's sick, or even on his deathbed. But nonetheless, there are certain people that are burdened with a lot and they simply cannot commit to learning on a regular basis. So Rabbi Chaim Volozhin says, they found a remedy for the ignorant, so that he too can be resurrected. What's the remedy for that? The person that's a ignorant, not a bad person, not someone that's ignoring the Torah on purpose. He's ignorant because he's constantly working. He's ignorant because he simply does not have the time to learn as much as your avrech or even a regular person. He's so burdened with business. He's building buildings. He's doing all types of things. How could he have a share of the world to come? How could he be resurrected with the dead? Says the same Gemara, Masechet Ketubot, says that there's a remedy for such a person. What's the remedy? Supporting Torah scholars, supporting the Torah itself, letting them derive benefit from their resources. The Torah considers it as though that ignorant person attached themselves to the Shekhinah itself, and in that merit, the verse says, you're all alive today. Deuteronomy chapter 5, verse 4. You'll be revived for eternal life, not just the scholars, but anyone who assists Torah scholars or marries off his daughter to a Torah scholar will be resurrected. See, here Rabbi Chaim Volozhin took us on a major spiritual roller coaster. On one end, he shocked us to a different galaxy by telling us that if we don't start taking our Torah learning more seriously and make an effort to learn Torah on a regular basis every single day, Olam Haba is simply something that belongs to other people, not to us. But then at the same token, to all of us that are working so much and can't commit to learning on a regular basis, we'll try to learn, we'll do our best to learn, but to learn every single day seems like an impossibility. No problem. Make sure that that money that you're chasing, that money that you're working so hard for, make sure that you have at least a maaser or a chomesh, 10 or 20% of that money is going to support Torah scholars, is going to support Torah. Why? At the very least, you could have something to show for it. Because that money that you're accumulating, those buildings that you're building, those cars that you're acquiring, that jewelry that fills up your store, all that stuff you can't take with you. And in Shamayim, your real estate is worth nothing. Your jewelry is worth nothing. Your stock portfolio is worth nothing. The only thing that's worth something is how much Torah and good deeds you have. Now, you could say, yeah, I have a lot of good deeds. Good that you have good deeds. Good that you have good deeds. But you don't have Torah, you still don't have Olam Haba. So to have Torah, part of those good deeds needs to be making a significant investment in Torah scholars. Making sure that a portion of the money doesn't necessarily need to be a large amount of money. It's all based on percentages relative to what Hashem is gifting you as an income, as far as how much money you have. But some people don't understand this. They have all the problems in the world, and they tell you, listen, Rabbi, I got this, I got that problem, I got all types of issues. I'm being sued. I have health issues. I have a child's issue. The spouse doesn't want to give me the kid. I have that problem. They have literally every problem under the sun. Okay, great. Listen, you should, do good things. Oh, listen, Rabbi, can I give some tzedakah to help situation? Sure, give tzedakah. Well, there's the website. Go give it. Go ahead. And then you see this person that told you literally 20 minutes just to read the message or listen to the messages they sent you, identifying their problems. And they want to solve all of those problems that took 30, 40, 50 years to acquire all these problems with a $200 donation. And they have money. It's not like they don't have money. If they don't have money, they don't have money. That $200 donation, it could be very valuable. But a person that literally has a significant income, makes tens of thousands of dollars every month or more, gives you a couple $100 donation. He thinks that for that couple $100, you're going to make some miracles for him like Moshe Rabbeinu and solve all of his problems. It's completely delirious. Completely delirious of people. If you want to share in the world to come, you have to acquire it one way or the other. You could acquire it either by you being the Torah learner, which is preferable for you to learn yourself, not to rely on other people to learn for you, or to share the learning where you learn a little bit, but you support somebody else that learns a lot. You support somebody else that's learning a lot. And if you do that, you have something. The problem is today, some of the avrechim, some of the scholars in the world, and such poverty, and also they both a poverty of money and a poverty of self-esteem, where sometimes they have such difficulty talking about money. When people tell them, listen, I want to do Yisachar and Zvulun with you, we'll share all the mitzvot, here's 500 shekels, we're sharing all the mitzvot. The guy just gave him 500 shekels, which is $150. Or even if he gave him $500, he wants to share all of his store for $500. What are you going to do with $500? The guy has 4, 5, 6, 7 kids. By the time you finish the eating for the week, the $500 is gone. And we're not talking about people that live in major luxury and they're eating meat every day. We're talking about basic living. Everybody understands. Diapers, basic stuff for laundry, electric, gas, all the things that you need for basic living. People think that, no, $500, I'm already saving humanity. You have to be realistic. Again, $500 may be all you can afford, so it is considered significant on a spiritual aspect of it, but if you could afford a lot more, $500 could be not even helping you. In fact, the Shulchan Aruch also says something about this. There are some people that really the only reason why they donate is because they want to tell the whole world about their donations. They want to tell the whole world that they're very, very generous people. They want to publicize their donations. And the Rama Paskins in the Shulchan Aruch in Yoreh Deah Siman 249, Seif 13. He says that a person should not glorify themselves due to a mitzvah of tzedakah that they gave, because that glorification will make them lose all of the merits that they got, to the point where they'll probably get punished for that tzedakah. Again, this is Psak Halacha, Shulchan Aruch. The Rama says a person should not glorify themselves due to the tzedakah that they gave, because that will make them lose all of the merits for that tzedakah that they gave, that charity that they gave, just because they're looking for honor, they're looking for all types of respect, and they're telling everybody that they gave the $500 or $5,000, whatever they gave, they're constantly publicizing it, not because they're trying to encourage other people to do it. That would actually make it a mitzvah. But rather, they're trying to show off that they're doing nice things so people will think better of them. That person is going to lose all of their merit because of that. And in fact, the Rama says he will actually get punished. He's likely to get punished for giving that tzedakah, because he gave it for the wrong reason. So here we see, Rabotai, a person cannot just simply write a few $100 check and think that they're absolving themselves of all problems. You have to invest. Either you're going to invest and toil and learn Torah yourself, which again, I can't emphasize enough, is preferable you study for yourself. You can still donate and do good things, but you should never rely on somebody else's Torah or yourself if you can do it yourself. Or you can study somewhat and invest a significant portion of what you have in Torah scholars on a regular basis, not a one-time thing, on a regular basis. Person does that, they're in a good position. But unfortunately, a person sometimes doesn't want to hear the truth, doesn't want to accept the truth, thinks that it's being made up. Now, if you look around the world, you'll see that a lot of people are having problems. The Jewish community is no exception. Many, many problems. In the Frum community, in the non-religious community, there's problems everywhere. Part of that problem is the fact that people are not fulfilling that covenant of learning Torah, and thereby leading to many sins of forsaking Hashem in many ways and having strange desires and ideas and so on and so forth. Now, how do we know that all of these problems, especially the ugly ones, are coming from lack of learning Torah? Simple. Says it in the Torah. Says it in the Gemara. The Gemara Masechet Brachot, page 5. 5 Aleph, 5a, says the following. Anyone who has the opportunity to engage in Torah study, but does not do so, just like Rabbi Chaim Volozhin was talking about, Anyone who has the opportunity to engage in Torah study but does not do so, HaKadosh Baruch Hu brings upon him repulsive afflictions that make him repulsive. As it stated, I became mute with stillness, I was silent from the good, and my pain became repulsive. This is from Psalm 39:3. And the word tov is interpreted here as referring to only to the Torah being tov, being good. For as it's stated elsewhere, the tov is associated with Torah. For I have given you tov, I've given you good doctrine, do not abandon my Torah. See here, the Gemara in essence gives a divine promise to those that can learn Torah and choose otherwise. They choose to waste their time, they choose to do things that are not what HaKadosh Baruch Hu wants them to do. And it's not that they're busy with work. It's not that they're busy helping people do tshuva. It's not that they're busy being with their family like it's necessary to be for a certain amount of time per day. It's not that they're busy dealing with things that are important. They're simply wasting time doing things that are unnecessary. Those people are bringing major afflictions on themselves. What kind of afflictions? Rabotai Karim. Isurin mechoarin. Isurin mechoarin sheochrin oto. The Gemara says repulsive afflictions. What kind of repulsive afflictions? What's a repulsive affliction? The one that makes a person ugly. Where the person is literally, their face changes due to their suffering. If you see certain people in life go through major suffering, whether it's drug addiction, or it's poverty, or it's sickness, or it's some type of depression, things of that nature, you see how those people quickly age, quickly become uglier, quickly become simply a deformed version of their former self. The Gemara says, if that person was able to learn Torah, and they didn't, that's the reason why it happened. That's the reason why it happened. Don't look at elsewhere. That's the reason why it happened. Now that, Rabotai, is a very, very big atomic bomb. Because every one of us, I'm especially looking at myself, every one of us has to check ourselves to see if we're really mamash learning as much as we need to be learning. If we're really pushing ourselves on our Torah as much as we're pushing ourselves to go make money. If we're pushing ourselves to learn Torah as much as we're pushing ourselves to go, find a car. If we're pushing ourselves as much as about this as we are about that. Why? Because part of the reason of why people don't learn Torah is they'll tell you, listen, you like to learn Torah, it makes you happy. I don't know, I learn Torah, it doesn't make me happy. Doesn't make me happy, I don't like it. What did you think? You're unique? You thought that your feelings are unique? You thought you were special? Nothing unique about it. Nothing unique about it. Comes the Meshech Chochmah. Comes the Meshech Chochmah, Rabotai Yekarim. The Meshech Chochmah says, commentary on Parashat Kitavo, chapter 28, verse 47. It says that on the verse, תחת אשר לא עבדת את השם אלוקיך בשמחה, בטוב לבב, that you didn't serve Hashem with joy, with happiness. Why didn't you serve Hashem with joy and happiness? So here the Meshech Chochmah says, look, it doesn't say you didn't serve Hashem. It says you served Hashem. You did mitzvot, you kept Shabbat, you did a lot of things, but you didn't do it with happiness. You weren't happy to learn Torah. You weren't happy to keep Shabbat. You weren't happy to protect your brit. Everything was like a burden to you. Again I gotta do this. Again it's this. Again it's that. And HaKadosh Baruch Hu says, all the punishments that I gave in Parashat Kitavo, the scariest parasha in the Torah, all of those punishments is not for the people that were Mechalel Shabbat. Those people have a special place for them in Gehenom. The seventh place, that's where they get all their punishments. The punishments here we're talking about is people that kept mitzvot, but they didn't keep it with happiness, they didn't keep it with joy. Those people, Hashem Yishmor v'Yatzil, they got all these curses in the Torah. Why? Why did this person get this curse if he's serving Hashem? Because he didn't serve him with happiness and with joy. So how come he didn't serve him with happiness and joy? Comes the Meshech Chochmah and says, because that joy that you would get from learning Torah, that joy that you would get from fulfilling mitzvot, that joy that you get from honoring Hashem, you spent that joy on all the nonsense that you do elsewhere, on the soccer games, on the chasing money, and on the all food, and all of the other things. You spent all of that joy. You enjoyed yourself so much from food, so much from the movies, so much from all of the other things. Even if those things were permissible, you enjoyed yourself so much there was no joy left in you to enjoy the mitzvot anymore. And for that, a person gets severely punished, Rabotai. If a person is not enjoying their Torah learning, a person is not enjoying their mitzvot, they should check, what am I really enjoying then? And you'll see that you're enjoying things that are either forbidden, and thereby you know why it's enjoyable. The Satan is making it look enjoyable before he kills you. He makes the poison sweet. Or they're enjoying other things that are allowed, but a little bit too much, not leaving themselves any room for joy in the things that really matter in life. And that's also a tool of the Yetzer Hara. Because serving a Kadosh Baruch Hu with joy is not just a recommendation, it's not a midat chasidut that started in the last few hundred years. This is something that's always been. As a matter of fact, there's a malacha in Shulchan Aruch, Rabbi Yosef Karo paskins that a person is supposed to say the Tehillim of thanking Hashem once a day with singing. He should sing it every day. Every day. It's halacha actually in Shulchan Aruch. It's supposed to sing that the thanking Hashem, Tehillim 100, every single day. He says all of the other zmirot, all of the other songs will be cancelled, and not that one, because that one will always be relevant, even after Mashiach comes. Thanking Hashem. And a person is obligated to thank Hashem with song every single day. But a lot of people don't do that. They're not serving Hashem with complete happiness. Sometimes it's because we're serving the Yetzer Hara with happiness. Sometimes because we're spending too much time doing other things with happiness, not leaving enough time for the Torah to be happy. It's also part of the reason why anytime somebody asks me, should I get my kids or somebody, anybody, a video game? The answer is always no. Never give kids video games. It's 100% spiritual poison. All video games, even if it's a Torah video game, it's spiritual poison. I don't know if Torah video games exist, but if it does, it's spiritual poison. Why? Once that kid starts getting those endorphins, those dopamines, all those different things in their brain, all that Yetzer Hara, getting joy from something digital, they're not going to want to learn books anymore. They're not going to want to learn books anymore. I even had some people that they stopped watching my shiurim. I told them, wait a minute, you were watching my shiurim for 2-3 years. How come you haven't watched a shiur in a year? He goes, I used to come to the class. So, I said, okay, there's no class, but there is a class. There's no live class with an audience, but there's 3 times a week there's a class. What's the difference? He goes, it's much better in person. I say, I agree it's much better in person. But that doesn't invalidate the stuff that's not in person. There's still a lot of learning, and look what happened to you. In 1 year, you've decreased the amount of learning that you do by 50%. You're borderline almost not religious. What happened to you? Because there's no in-person classes? Kind of ridiculous excuse is this? But that's what the Satan will tell you in the beginning. It's not the same because you're used to getting your spiritual juice one way. This is not a good thing, especially for kids. giving kids joy from video games, terrible idea. Terrible idea, because they're going to get too much joy from those games that when you introduce Torah to them, they're not going to want it. They're simply not going to want it. It's going to take a big learning curve. Big learning curve. And I remember there was one parent told me that when they had a kid, their first kid, she gave her kid, what are those things? iPads. They gave him an iPad. And she said, oh, my kid would never cried. But then I realized after like 6 months that my kid also didn't talk either. But she was, the kid was always playing with this iPad. Literally, they come out of the mommy's belly already knowing how to play with its iPads. And the kid didn't cry, but also didn't talk. And then she said, listen, after a year and a half, I realized that's a problem. I took him to the doctor. The doctor told me it's because of the iPad. They're getting all of their mind is in this thing. It's causing a problem with speech. The mom was strong enough to deal with the crying for 2 weeks. But eventually, the kid stopped crying. And the kid obviously didn't have an iPad anymore. And I believe, B'ezrat Hashem, until this day, does not have an iPad. And the kid talks and sings and does all types of wonderful things. Why? Tachat Hashem lo avat et Hashem Elokecha. Tachat lo avat, a person didn't serve Hashem with complete joy, complete happiness. Problem. Why? He spent that happiness elsewhere. So here you see, Rabotai Karim, that our Chachamim teach us time and time again beautiful things of how each and every single one of us needs to work on ourselves. Now, the Mesilat Yesharim says that there are different ways of showing our expression of loving Hashem, different steps in doing so. And one of the manifestations, this is in chapter 19 of Mesilat Yesharim, the second manifestation of the love of Hashem is the joy in performing the mitzvot. And this is a major principle in the service of Hashem. And this idea that joy is an integral part to divine service is what David HaMelech was teaching us in Tehillim 100. Serve Hashem with gladness, come before Him with joy, with joyous song. So here we see that David HaMelech is not just singing a song, but in essence is teaching us that serving HaKadosh Baruch Hu requires you to feel joy. And if you're not feeling joy, there's something missing. There's something missing in our Avodat Hashem. And the Meshech Chochmah explained to us that that's something that's missing is perhaps because we're spending all of that energy getting joy from other places. So if we try to do what the Gaon Vilna has been telling us this whole time, which is not to go after these desires, to restrain ourselves with a muzzle and a bridle, that's the way that we're going to be able to fulfill our role in the world. At times that seems like extreme, but in reality, when you see the results, you realize why David HaMelech was able to tell us that you're going to serve Hashem. As a result of this, you'll serve Hashem with happiness. How can I be happy if I have to muzzle myself? If you look at that Tehillim, that is actually chapter 32 of that Tehillim, we'll finish with this point. It's in essence David HaMelech giving us a map of how to not only serve Hashem with joy, but to actually have joy as a result of serving Hashem. He says, Askilecha ve'orecha b'derech zu telech. I will educate you and enlighten you in which path to go. I'll just continue in English. I'll advise you with what my eye has seen, says David HaMelech. This is chapter 32, verse 8 through the end. So he says that I've tried everything, David HaMelech says in so many words. I've traveled down the difficult path of self-improvement and have experienced a lot through doing tshuva and prayer, and therefore I recommend that you follow my example. Instead of you going through a difficult path by yourself, smart person listens to people that have experience. So what is this? What is this advice? He says, don't be like the horse or like the mule, uncomprehending. Restrain it with a muzzle and bridle when it's adorned, so that it does not approach you. So here, David HaMelech says, don't be like these animals that when they get different signs from Hashem to do tshuva, they don't get it. They learn in the Shiur Torah, don't do this, don't do that, they don't get it. They learn from their friend, told them don't do this, don't do that, they don't get it. They learn from life itself, it's different people they meet, don't do this, don't do that, they don't get it. Don't be like one of these animals. Why animals? Because an animal doesn't have the mental capacity to learn from somebody else's experience. An animal does not have the mental capacity to really do a calculation like a human does. An animal only reacts to something physical. Somebody hits it, it moves. Somebody doesn't feed it, it does a certain action. If they get food, they continue that action. In essence, they have to have something physical motivate them. They don't have a brain to think and get the message. He says, don't be like those animals that require that Hashem hits them in order for them to move. Don't be like an animal. That's what he also says, that so it doesn't approach you. Because if you act like an animal, that punishment, that rebuke from Hashem, that loss of money, that divorce, that physical problem, that issue is going to come to you. It's going to approach you. So don't be an animal and force Hashem to approach you. Many are the agonies of the wicked, but as for the one who trusts in Hashem, kindness surrounds him. David HaMelech says that the difference between a man and a beast is that a beast is aroused or restrained only by the external threats and blows, while a man is motivated by their sense of sight and right and wrong. Now, when a person listens to the word of HaKadosh Baruch Hu, he already knows what's necessary. But sometimes he sees people that are doing the opposite of what HaKadosh Baruch Hu said, sees them, looks like they're prospering, looks like they are doing well. Mistake. They're not doing well. First and foremost, just like the Gaon Vilna says, they know that what they're living is a lie. They know that their adultery is wrong. They know that their stealing is wrong. They know that their fun will be over at some time. Every drug user, every adulterer, every thief, everybody knows that the show will be over at some point. Everybody does. They don't like to think about it. They don't like to admit it. But everybody knows the show will be over at some point. And everybody knows that it's wrong. Everybody knows it's wrong. Now, even more so, when those rebukes come from heaven, those people, the wicked, they view them as an agony. Why is it an agony? Because they're not interested in changing. They're not interested in changing. So therefore they view all the pain that Hashem gives them, whether it's a loss or a problem or a health issue, whatever it is, they view all of those difficulties as an agony, as a torture. But the one that trusts in Hashem, whether he has difficulties in our life or he has good things, blessings in our life, kindness surrounds him. What's the kindness? The kindness that surrounds this person is because they know that all of these different things that are happening in their life are, if they're difficult, if they're painful, it's simply cleaning them from all of the impurities that they brought on themselves. therefore it's good for them. Ultimately, it'll be good for them. And if it's painful, but perhaps they don't need a cleaning, it's simply elevating them. It's preparing the foundation that needs to be hard in order to get to that higher level that Hashem wants to bring you in. So therefore, that person that trusts in Hashem, he sees even the pain as good. And surely sees the blessing as good, and he knows that it comes from Hashem. And therefore a person should be glad in Hashem, and rejoice, O righteous. Cry out in joy, all upright of heart. Not only should you be upright and serve Hashem, not only should you be joyful and serve Hashem with joy, but publicize all the miracles that you have happening in your life. Get other righteous people to know about the miracles that you're experiencing. Get other people to see the hand of Hashem through your life. Doesn't always necessarily need to be in a video. It can be a personal story to your friend. Instead of sharing some lashon hara about something, tell people about some miracle that happened to you today. That the washer machine that didn't work is now working. That the check that bounced, it actually didn't bounce. It was a mistake by the bank. That the rent was paid. That the kids got a good grades in school. And so on and so forth. All those miracles that are happening to you, share with other people. Especially other righteous people. That will be part of your servitude of Hashem with joy, because you're enjoying HaKadosh Baruch Hu so much, you want to share Him, you want other people to see Him. And that is in essence what David HaMelech is telling us. If you want to overcome that Yetzer Hara, you have to go to a complete opposite extreme. Not just focus on what I shouldn't do, but also work on yourself on the things that you need to do. You need to serve Hashem with happiness. You need to learn more Torah. You need to run away from all of these things that are taking you away from the Torah. All of these pieces, if a person does all of them, they're on a path to greatness. If a person does some of them, they're still in a good direction. Be'ezrat Hashem, HaKadosh Baruch Hu will give each and every single one of us the strength to overcome all of these obstacles, all of these things that are getting in our way of serving Hashem with complete joy. And there will be so much joy and happiness in our servitude of Hashem that it will simply become contagious. Where people will no longer need to be scared to death by the lectures or by the events that are happening in the world or in their lives in order to do tshuva, but rather they'll see that the ones that already did tshuva are so happy as a result of what they did that that's enough of a reason for all of us to follow. Tiskule mitzvot rabot. Thank you again for learning with me, and Be'ezrat Hashem, we will see each other soon. Kol tu b'cha v'atzlacha.
אני מברך את הרבנים, אני מברך את הרבנים, הרב ירון ראובן, הרב אפרים כחלון, ראשי ארגון בעזרת השם, שהלכו בפי עליון, שעלו מעלה, יהיה להם ברכה והצלחה, הקדוש ברוך הוא ימלא בישועות ליבם לטובה ולברכה, שבכל אשר יפנו ישכילו ויצליחו, יזכו לעשות כאלה וכאלה, הגדילו תורה לאדירה, אמן ואמן.
בעזרת השם רשת בכל הארץ. הוא היהודי הזה, הוא היה מיליונר, סגר את כל הביזנס, אמר אני משקיע פה בעולמה של תורה.
איפה הוא גר?
בפלורידה.
פלורידה, איפה זה פלורידה? באמריקה.
באמריקה. כן, ליד. אנחנו שם עכשיו הולכים להקים קהילה ספרדית.
חזק אותו בשמי.
קהילה ספרדית גדולה.
תעבירו מה שבירכתי אותו.
כן, קהילה ספרדית גדולה.